You've seen a modern birth. The hospital room, the monitors, the doctors, the epidural, the nervous dad cutting the umbilical cord with sterile scissors. Now imagine none of that existed. No hospitals, no doctors, no painkillers. Just a woman, a baby, and a small group of people who had done this before. And somehow, for hundreds of thousands of years, it worked. So what did ancient humans actually do when a baby was born? The short answer, everything they could. The long answer is stranger, more beautiful, and in some ways more terrifying than you might expect. Let's start with the most basic question. Where did they give birth? Not in a hospital. Not even in a dedicated room. Most of the time, birth happened wherever people lived, inside a cave, a hut, a tent, or beneath a sheltered rock overhang. There was no privacy in the modern sense. Other people were nearby. Children played a few meters away. Someone tended the fire. Someone prepared food. Birth was not a medical event, it was a social event, a community event, and the community was essential because human birth is unusually difficult. In fact, compared to most mammals, humans have some of the hardest births on Earth. Why? Because our species evolved in a strange direction. Walking upright narrowed the pelvis. Bigger brains made babies' heads larger. Evolution solved one problem and created another. Human babies have to rotate as they move through the birth canal. Their shoulders must twist. Their heads emerge facing away from the mother's spine. It's an incredibly complicated process, and it comes at a cost. Labor is longer, pain is greater, the risk is higher. But there is another reason human birth is so difficult. Human babies are born surprisingly early. Not early in terms of months, but early in terms of development. A newborn foal can stand within hours. A newborn giraffe can walk the same day. A human baby can't even hold up its own head. If babies stayed in the womb long enough for their brains to develop further, many simply wouldn't fit through the birth canal. So humans evolved a different solution. We give birth to unfinished babies. And that means newborn humans require more care than almost any other young mammal, which brings us to one of humanity's oldest jobs. Long before doctors, hospitals, or medical schools, there were experienced women who helped other women give birth, what we would now call midwives. For at least hundreds of thousands of years, knowledge about childbirth was passed from one generation to the next. Older women knew what labor looked like. They knew when to encourage the mother to walk, when to help her squat, when to offer water, and when something was going wrong. They would support the mother physically, hold her hand, wipe sweat from her face, help her change position, catch the baby when it emerged. No medical degrees, no sterile gloves. Just experience, observation, and knowledge accumulated across countless births. And here's something fascinating. Modern research has found that emotional support during labor can reduce stress, improve outcomes, and lower the likelihood of certain complications. Ancient people didn't know the biology behind it, but they understood the practice, a calm voice, a reassuring touch, someone saying, "Keep going." That may have been one of the most important tools ancient humans ever had. Then came the most critical moments, the baby's first breath. For 9 months, oxygen arrived through the placenta. Suddenly that system shuts down. The newborn has to breathe on its own. Ancient caregivers would clear the baby's mouth and nose, rub its body, stimulate it to cry. That first cry wasn't just a sound. It was proof that the lungs were working, proof that a new life had begun. Then came the umbilical cord. Many traditional societies didn't cut it immediately. They often waited until the cord stopped pulsing, allowing blood from the placenta to continue flowing into the baby. Only then would they tie it off using plant fibers, animal sinew, or strips of leather. To cut it, they might use a sharpened stone blade. It sounds primitive, but a freshly struck flint edge can be astonishingly sharp, sharper than some modern surgical steel. Simple doesn't always mean ineffective. Now imagine the next few minutes. The baby is warm, slippery, confused, and experiencing the outside world for the first time. Where does it go? Almost always onto the mother's body. Chest to chest, skin to skin, the baby's heart rate steadies. Breathing becomes more regular. Body temperature stabilizes. The newborn hears the same heartbeat it listened to for months before birth. Today, hospitals encourage skin-to-skin contact because science shows it works. Ancient humans practiced it because they could see that it worked. The first hours after birth were not spent in a nursery. They were spent together, and together mattered. Life was dangerous. A cut could become fatal. An infection could spread. A drought could bring starvation. And infancy was especially risky. Many children never reached adulthood. Ancient parents knew this better than anyone, which is why hunter-gatherer infants were rarely left alone. They were carried against the body, held in arms, wrapped in slings, kept close during travel, work, and sleep. The modern phrase, spoiling a baby, would have made little sense to them. A baby survived by being near people, constantly. The entire group shared responsibility. And fathers were often part of that responsibility too. Popular culture sometimes imagines prehistoric fathers as distant hunters who appeared only occasionally. The evidence suggests a more complicated picture. In many hunter-gatherer societies, fathers help provide food, protect children, play with them, carry them, and care for them. Some of the oldest images of parenting show adults holding children thousands of years ago. The details change. The instinct doesn't. Then came the rituals. Almost every human culture has created ways to welcome a newborn into the community. Not necessarily formal religions, not necessarily grand ceremonies, just meaningful acts. A grandmother might whisper a blessing. A parent might give the child a name inspired by an animal, a river, a season, or an ancestor. A special fire might be lit. A song might be sung. The exact customs varied. The message was always the same. You belong here. You are one of us. And the baby's first food? Breast milk. For most of human history, it was the safest and most reliable food available. Breastfeeding often continued for years. Weaning happened gradually as children began eating other foods. And if a mother couldn't produce enough milk, another woman sometimes helped. The idea of wet nurses is not a historical curiosity. It's a practice that stretches deep into humanity's past. But now we arrive at an important truth. Modern birth is vastly safer than ancient birth by almost every measure that matters. Fewer mothers die. Fewer babies die. Infections are treated, complications can become surgeries. A difficult labor that might have been fatal thousands of years ago can often end with both mother and child surviving. The numbers are not close. Modern medicine saves millions of lives, and those lives matter. So this is not a story about how the past was better. It wasn't. A mother hemorrhaging in a cave without medical care is not romantic. A newborn dying from an infection that could be cured with antibiotics is not romantic. The risks were real. The suffering was real. The losses were real. But there is something worth noticing. For most of human history, birth happened surrounded by familiar faces. The people who loved you weren't waiting in another room. They were there, helping, comforting, witnessing. The baby didn't arrive beneath fluorescent lights and electronic monitors. It arrived into voices, into warmth, into a circle of people already making space for a new life. The biology of birth hasn't changed. The need for support hasn't changed. The importance of touch hasn't changed. The need to feel safe hasn't changed. We built hospitals because they save lives. That was one of the greatest achievements in human history. But the things ancient humans brought into birth, connection, care, patience, and community, still matter too. Ancient humans did what they could. They held hands. They offered comfort. They caught the baby. They kept it close. They gave it a name, a place, and a story. And every person alive today descends from an unbroken chain of births like these. Millions of mothers. Millions of infants. Millions of ordinary people facing one of the most dangerous moments in human life, with little more than experience, courage, and each other. Against the odds, they succeeded. The fact that you're here listening to this story is proof of it.